All right, looks like we're here. So I am late to this whole news of Apple slowing down the new iPhone, and I've gotten a large tweet and message storm about this. I've been on vacation for the holidays, so I haven't had time to really go over this and do a video on it. So I thought I would read this beautiful article at bgr.com called "No, Apple Didn't Just Confirm Planned Obsolescence." So I'm going to read the article and then give my opinion. In a statement today, Apple confirmed a little-known feature of old iPhones. When your 2-year-old iPhone's battery starts to die, as all lithium-ion batteries do, it can't put out the peak power it once used to. On some phones, that lack of power would cause sudden shutdowns when the processor was working particularly hard and put too much strain on the battery. To prevent these shutdowns from happening, Apple artificially limits the processor of iPhones with bad batteries to prevent power spikes. In doing so, Apple also made those iPhones slower than when they were new. Apple confirmed this policy in a statement today. Our goal is to deliver the best experience for customers, which includes overall performance and prolonging the life of their devices. Lithium-ion batteries become less capable of supplying peak current demands when in cold conditions, have a low battery charge, or as they age over time, which can result in the device unexpectedly shutting down to protect its electronic components. Last year, we released a feature for the iPhone 6 and 6S and SE to smooth out the instantaneous peaks only when needed to prevent the devices from unexpectedly shutting down during these conditions. We've now extended that feature to the iPhone 7 with iOS 11.2 and plan to add support for other products in the future. If you squint and read that statement sideways, what Apple is confirming here is planned obsolescence, the idea that companies intentionally design bad products to die before their natural time in order to force you to keep upgrading. If Apple wanted to really force users to upgrade earlier than they needed to, this would be a terrible way of doing so. It would only target iPhones that are already dying thanks to a bad battery. In other words, phones that are soon going to be replaced anyway. A much better way of forcing upgrades would be to limit the processor speed of all old iPhones, regardless of battery life. Apple doesn't do this because planned obsolescence is bad for business. Tests have repeatedly shown that old iPhones don't slow down on their own. It's the demands of newer apps and operating systems that slow things down, and that really doesn't have anything to do with Apple. So let's just go in. There's so much to go into in this article. I suppose the first thing that we should get into is the last paragraph over here. It said tests have repeatedly shown that old iPhones don't slow down on their own. Tests have repeatedly shown that old iPhones don't slow down on their own. However, if we scroll up just 2 paragraphs, you can see that Apple says that they lower the clock speed so that it slows down the phone because of the fucking battery. So this is no, that's bull right there. Now, the second thing that we should go over is some of the language used in the first paragraph here. So it says, firstly, they're calling this a feature. It's a feature. It says, when your 2-year-old phone's battery starts to die, as all lithium-ion batteries do, see, they're kind of preparing you for saying, this is something that's going to happen in any phone with any battery, because all batteries die. And when they die, they can't put out the power, which would cause sudden shutdowns. And now the first thing is, we do actually have this, I believe, with the 6S side. So the 6S would have these random shutdowns. Yeah. So first of all, fuckers, just to get this shit straight, ain't ever had a Moto G shut down early even after it's 2 or 3 years old. Never seen a Moto G shut down in the cold. Never seen, a Huawei phone randomly shut down in the cold. I've never had my Samsung S2, my Samsung, the original one, the Galaxy S 4G, or the S5, or the S7 randomly shut down in the cold. Never had any of these shut down. You know what does shut down randomly? The fucking iPhone. This, right here on Apple.com. So, no. Secondly, let's go back to the rest of this. So it says we're going to plan to support other products in the future. Like, they genuinely make this sound like it is a feature. And it says over here, if you squint and read that statement sideways, what Apple's confirming here is planned obsolescence. If Apple really wanted to force users upgrade earlier than they need to, that would be a terrible way of doing so. It would only target iPhones that are already dying thanks to a bad battery. In other words, phones that are going to be replaced anyway. Somebody says, I have too much Google Play credit. Have some. Thank you to Aditya. I appreciate that. Now, if we were to look at this, These phone batteries admittedly start to die after about a year. The battery life that you get after 1 year is usually less than what you had when you first bought it. I don't know about you, but I'm not usually ready to replace something I spend $600 on because it's a year old. And you can actually do this thing called open it and replace your battery. They act like, we have to slow down the phone. It's more important that we slow down the phone than we give you an alert to replace your battery. And hey, you could just do this. I mean, we do have these things called battery warnings. We see where it's an Apple it may know what this is. It's called having a little condition indicator that says replace now and this little thing. Like you could do this rather than just slow down the phone without telling the user. Because here's the thing about this. When they say that this is not going to promote planned obsolescence. When a phone just starts to slow down for no reason, nothing from the user, nothing the user did, and there's no alert, the user is going to think to himself, this thing's a piece of crap, time to throw it away. But if the user has an alert that says, hey, your battery is dying, this is going to cause it to die sooner or run really slow, that's going to cause the user to think, I have a great phone that just needs a new $5 to $25 battery installed by myself or a technician. Let me fix that old phone instead of throw it away. Because it's a usability issue, but it's a usability issue that you know how to solve. My phone is slowly over time beginning to run slower. Like that sucks. Now, I don't believe that this is some straight up, a bunch of minions sitting in a room rubbing their hands together and going, we're going to get them to upgrade sooner. I don't think that that's what goes on in the Apple boardroom. What I think goes on is they realize we want the phone to have a certain amount of battery life. We don't want to have as many people coming back to, get them repaired. How do we solve this problem? Well, we could clock the phone down. Hey, shouldn't we tell people about that? Shouldn't we code in some feature that alerts the user that we're doing that? Nah. But, and if that just so happens to cause them to want to buy a new one, no harm, no foul. It's one of those things where I think it was a secondary consideration and that anybody in the room that brought up, hey, maybe we should alert the user to that so that they can make an informed decision. No. And, there are people that say, but Louis, no other phone tells you when the battery needs to be replaced. There's no other phone out there. The Moto G doesn't tell you when the battery has to be replaced. The Samsung doesn't tell you when the battery has to be replaced. But isn't the whole shtick with Apple, isn't that whole point that they include features, that they're a pioneer in their business, that they don't pick their lips, that they always give you the features that before everybody else, they're an innovator. How much innovation is required to put a fucking replace now thing on the battery? I mean, really? You can't code this shit in? This is too hard for you? You can't put this at the top of the phone? No, you have to make the user think that their phone is fucked. Thank you. And one of the other reasons I didn't stop what I was doing over the holiday to do this video is, are you really surprised by now? Really, are you? In the 2010 issue, people said, oh, you're using it wrong. Oh, you screwed it up. And then years later, oh, we put the wrong capacitor in there. Again, after doing it in 2008, and 2009, and 2010. They did it again. The 2011 MacBook Pro. Oh, you must be using it wrong. Oh, you must be using it in bed. Oh, you must be encoding stuff overnight. Forget all that shit on our website that said that this device is much faster than last year's. That's much faster than last year's. It renders video faster than last year's. Processes faster than last year's. Plays games faster than last year's. Don't use it like that, because if you do, you'll kill the GPU. And it's probably your fault until we get a class action lawsuit, in which case then we'll probably replace them all for free up until December of 2016. Really. This is the company you want to defend with this. With Moto G4 didn't have a user replaceable battery. Moto G5 does. We're going to get to that soon. Because that's an important point. Then there was the MacBook Pro Retina from 2012, where it kind of bends, it flexes, and you're using it wrong, all up until the moment that they realize, oh crap, this chip really does come desoldered from the board for no good reason, even when the machine is in perfect condition. We should fix those until December 2016, and not let any of our users know that may have the machine that may be affected by this issue. Thank you. When you buy these products, you have to know what you're getting at this point. The iPhone 4, you're holding it wrong. Like the obnoxious and arrogant nature of a company to say that you're holding a product wrong when you're not getting service with it when you do with others. You know what you're getting at this point. When you buy this stuff, you know what you're getting. When this came out, nobody in this business was surprised. I'm sure there were many users, and I don't use that in the insulting slur-like term, but standard phone users, I'm sure that many of them were surprised, but none of the people in this business were surprised. Come on. Look at the history. This is just what they do. Now, many of you are going to say, well, Samsung, the S7 doesn't have a user-replaceable battery, and the Moto G that you showed, the Moto G 3rd Gen, doesn't have a user-replaceable battery. And this is why I'm doing this video. This is why I'm concerned. Because there's this thing in this industry where everybody thinks that their way to success is to copy Apple. I hate it. It is a terrible, god-awful disease. People think, you know, when I did that overview of the Microsoft Surface where there's no screws and you have to heat the thing to open it, Microsoft thinks that Apple's success, Microsoft has this idea that Apple's success is not based on their marketing. It's not based on their user interface. It's not based on having a cohesive ecosystem of devices and software packages that work together where you don't have to worry about viruses. It can't be any of that. No, it must be that they seal the fucking computer together with no screws. That has to be what their success is based on. Samsung will think, oh, it can't be how the iPhone syncs with the PC. It can't be the marketing. No, it must be that they glued, that they sealed the battery into the phone and didn't put an SD card slot. We're going to make, the S5 was good, but if we really want to get sales figures, we got to seal the battery in and remove the SD card slot. See, there's this issue in our industry where when Apple gets a cold, everybody else around starts to sneeze. And that's been happening. The companies that actually make devices I like, they're starting to copy this bullshit part of the design with this idea that if we copy the things that make Apple suck, that we will become great, without copying the actual features that make Apple great. Apple did not sell record amounts of machines in 2012 and 13 because they chose to glue the battery in. They sold record amounts of machines because they developed a thin machine that had a near 4K display at $12.99. You look at the A1425 Retina, say what you will, but for this, you had an amazing, to get a machine with that screen, that processor, that integrated graphics, that battery life at that price, that was something you weren't going to find anywhere. People were buying their products for the innovative features in spite of shit like this. And we already see that Moto is, gluing, having the battery sealed inside the phone. We already see Samsung with the battery sealed inside the phone. I don't want Samsung and Motorola looking over at this and saying, "Ooh, Apple must be successful because they throttle their phones after a year. We should do that." No, don't do that. Please don't do that. Please don't do that. Someone says, I used to work for AppleCare. Why you think the new iPhone has the new CPUs with the low-powered cores? It's because of the crap batteries Apple used that dies after 500 full charges. iPhones are a joke. Yeah, that's the thing. That's what kind of scares me here. I don't want other people to copy this stuff. I really don't. Now, they're already copying stuff like sealing the battery into the phone. With the Samsung S7, fucking unforgivable. That phone is $600, and Samsung has already shown time and time again that they can make a phone that's very slim, very durable, and very liquid resistant, which the iPhone was not at the time of the Samsung S5 came out. They can make a phone with all those benefits that's still very slim, that users will buy in droves. Motorola, I can forgive a little bit. The Moto G was about $179 when I was looking at it. I can't really criticize a $179 phone the same way I would a $600 device. But, I'm really scared of living in a world where every other phone manufacturer starts following suit with this shit. And stop listening to the tech journalists that are going to tell you that this is okay, it's all right, lithium batteries always die. Yeah, you know what? Lithium batteries die, but guess what? You don't have to seal it into a phone, and then after sealing it into a phone, fuck up the phone when the battery starts to die and not alert the user. That's not necessary. That's not a standard part of the user experience. You don't have to use that phrasing where when your phone's lithium-ion battery starts to die, as all lithium-ion batteries do. No, don't start in with that where you're trying to make it sound like it's okay. Because it's not. And it's not that hard when you're a multi-billion-dollar company selling a $600 device to put a little icon with a little conditioned battery. Replace now. Oh, wait, you can't because we sealed it into the phone after you. At least make a little middle finger show up there instead of the hazard symbol. You don't have to have a hazard symbol. You can put a condition, fuck you, with a little middle finger right by this hazard symbol. Even that would be more than fine to let people know. So I'm going to read through some of your chat and then get out of here. Let's see what you guys have to say. A company that releases yearly versions cannot be expected to support increasingly obsolete hardware for multiple years. You know what? Great. How about this? Don't support my iPhone. Don't update it to a software version that will then start slowing it down. How about that? I'll even go with that. Don't support it at all. Don't push firmware to it that's going to cause it to slow down when it gets old. I'll live with that. I think that that's fine. What else do we got here? Let me make it always on top so I can see it easier. There we go. A feature to slow down. Yep. Chris says a feature. Holy, if Samsung were to do this, the public would be in the streets with pitchforks and torches, but Apple does it and the sheeple are okay with it. I think a big part of it is that the media does cover for them. The media does, like a lot of media outlets do kind of cover for them. Thank you to Steve Donaldson. I think they just caught up with their bad intentions and then they made up this reason totally made up. I don't know. That's a little conspiracy theorist to me. I wouldn't say it's out of the possibility, but I genuinely believe that it's part to do with the user experience. So one example, I forget if it was a 2010 or 2011 MacBook, but with the earlier firmware versions, I recall that for the first 5 to 10 minutes it was on, you could run Prime 95 and the fans would not go above a certain RPM. This was insane. And I think that they did it not to kill the machine. I think they did it because they sell a product based on luxury, based on ergonomics, based on the look and feel. A lot of that is part of the product, and having a product that is loud takes away from that. And I think that they're arrogant enough to think that that's worth it. It's worth it to do these things that may in some ways cripple the hardware or the longevity of the device just to maintain the aesthetics. What phone do you recommend? I think the Moto G is a great phone, especially even, the Moto G 3rd generation. You could probably find that for like $100 now. It's going to do everything you need. It doesn't have the sexiest screen. If you need a sexy screen, there's other phones if you're going to watch movies on it. But if you're just using it for regular daily usage, it's a fine device. I like it. It's very liquid resistant, very drop resistant, more so than almost any other phone. Feels good in your hand. It's one of those phones where you cannot get a case for it and be clumsy like me and not have to worry about it. I like that. No user replaceable battery, so you got to dig into there. But again, for the price of the phone, it's difficult for me to criticize it as much. Your car's power output will reduce as your fuel runs out. Solution, just refuel your car. I had a Nexus 6P that has a problem shutting down in the cold. The Nexus 6P, I don't think the big issue is shutting down in the cold so much as the terrible, terrible casing that it has. But yeah, the Nexus 6P is not a phone that I would advise buying. Not great. I have an S4 and it works like it was when it was new. Even out in the cold below freezing, it still works. Yeah, and you'd have to be an owner of some type of repair store in a crowded metropolitan area like Manhattan to get this. When it goes below freezing outside, there'll be droves of people with iPhones that show up saying my phone is dead. Not Samsung's, not Motorola's, not HTC's, but a lot of iPhones will show up saying it just died, or it hit 30% and then died, or hit 40% and then died. Even with phones that were at the time relatively new, like 6-8 months old. Targeting other products in the future, lowering the clock speed on MacBooks would go down well. You're putting it in your back pocket wrong. Anybody who puts their phone in their back pocket is, well, I don't want to get demonetized. What else do we have? I'm about 4 minutes behind. Users are lazy and complacent. They'll continue to support vendors like Apple. Aditya says, fuck literally every modern media outlet. I would say the mainstream ones. Most mainstream media sucks. Talk about the fact that we can't go down iOS versions. I think Samsung started doing that too, and I like the ability to roll back because it takes a really arrogant engineer to believe that there's no reason that anybody would want to downgrade. There's no bugs in the new version of this software. There's no reason at all that anybody could ever possibly want to roll back their software. I think that's just arrogance in engineering. CLG's acceptable phones with a user removable battery. I'm not a big fan of the LG stuff. Not a big fan. They had a few of them that had the serious boot looping issue. I remember Jason had one, and a good amount. Like, he spent about 20% of his day cursing his LG phone. And I've never used one that I particularly enjoyed. But I do give them a thumbs up for the user removable battery. France has draconian laws against planned obsolescence, so Apple better hope it's not planned. Yeah, but that's just France. $30 iPhone screens off eBay a bad idea? I'm restoring an iPhone SE. Almost any iPhone screen off of eBay is a bad idea. The only thing Apple did good is quitting the phone jack to put stereo speakers, but come on, you can put phone jack on the other side of the phone. Yep. All right, time to get out of here. But before we get out of here today, time to shill some new products before Christmas. Check it out. Look at what you can buy here. Also, thanks to Hein JB. I appreciate the 5. Look at all the new stuff that we've got here, just in time for the new year. Did you get crappy Christmas presents? Return them and use the money on this website, where you can buy things like 3D stencils. You can buy quick heating elements. I got replacement heating elements in. It cost more than I wanted, but such is life. We got the bent nozzles back in. We got the ultra-size bent nozzle here. We got $16.99. You can get a 12.7 millimeter bent nozzle. This is a really good size for removing SMC, PMIC, good stuff here. We got some new connectors. We got an iPhone 10 LCD connector. We got an iPhone 10 charging dock connector. We've got the USB-C connector for the 12-inch MacBook. We've got MacBook parts in now. We got MacBook Air batteries. We've got trackpad cables, trackpads, DC in boards, DC in cables, trackpad cables. I already said trackpad cables. You got Crest P500s. Got all sorts of new stuff here. So make sure to stop by. Thank you for watching. Have a good new year. I'm out of here. I'm going to try and go someplace warm because it's getting close to 9 degrees where I live, and that's no fun. So see you next time.